Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Titanfall 2. I've heard great things about this campaign for a long time, so I was really excited to try it out. Now I haven't played Titanfall 1, but playing through just the campaign, I feel like I didn't really need to. There might have been some sub-context things that I missed, but otherwise it is its own self-contained story. It's a first-person shooter where you play as a pilot who is linked to a Titan, and a Titan is basically just like a giant robot that is otherwise autonomous unless the pilot goes inside it, and then they're kind of like working together. In terms of comparison, I would think something like Iron Man and his suit Jarvis, where they talk to each other and have some kind of relationship with each other. It takes place on a planet somewhere far in the future with a bunch of like futuristic warfare. Basically, like these humans are at war with each other. I didn't really gather over what. Maybe that's something that's more dived into with Titanfall 1 or something that I missed, but these humans are at war with each other in some distant planet. So there's like different kinds of animals and creatures that you can encounter and sometimes have to fight. Basically, like we use a bunch of advanced warfare, but the main means of warfare are these Titans that both the good guys and the bad guys have access to. Now, at the beginning, you don't originally play as a pilot. You play as just like a regular army dude, but then you gain access to this Titan as his old pilot had passed away during some battle. And so this new Titan that you link with is named BT, and as you play through this campaign, they develop a relationship and they have a little bit of this, I mean, it's something that you've seen before where the pilot will say some kind of phrase like, "You can say that again," and then BT will say it again because he's a robot and he doesn't understand human expressions, or the pilot will give him a thumbs up and the robot looks at the thumb and does a thumbs up back as he's learning these human gestures. And I wish that the campaign dived even more into this relationship, because those are probably my favorite parts about this campaign, is this friendship and this link between the pilot and the Titan. And maybe if this campaign was a little bit longer, they would have had more time to really flesh out that relationship. The campaign only took 4 or 5 hours, so it's really short, and it left me wanting a lot more, to be frank. As you're playing through the game, the Titan BT will occasionally talk to you, and you're playing the pilot, and it gives you 2 different options on how to respond. Some of them are funny, some of them can be a little snarky. I'm not sure if they have any effect on the actual game. I'm sure it just changes how that particular conversation between the pilot and BT goes. But it is kind of fun to give you at least a little bit of decision making in terms of how the dialogue goes. So when you're playing as just the pilot and you're not inside the Titan, they are 2 very different terms of gameplay. The pilot, he is very agile, he can run along the walls, he can slide, he can double jump, and I believe this is one of the first video games that really mastered the sliding along the wall. You know, in terms of maneuverability, this game actually reminded me quite a lot of Ghost Runner, and people would say that Ghost Runner took a lot of influence from Titanfall 2, and I can absolutely see the correlation between these 2 games, because you're running on long walls, you're sliding all over the place. The only main difference is Ghost Runner, you play as a ninja with a sword, and in this one it's more like a first-person shooter where you're picking up ranged weapons and throwing grenades. But other than that, you can do a lot of cool abilities and platforming as you are battling the enemies. Now, when you're inside the Titan, it's more clunky, right? Because he's a really big robot and he's all about strength, and you feel really strong when you're inside a Titan. You're just running over enemies, and it's really cool when you're inside your Titan and you get another big boss who's also in a Titan, and you just have this one-on-one Titan battle as you're trying to duke it out. And as you play through the game, you get access to these different loadouts for your Titan, and all the different loadouts come with different abilities, different shields. The one that I liked the most was this one that was all about like using lasers, and so as you're playing the Titan, you eventually unlock, like, I don't know if a meter charges up, but you unlock a super ability that you can use. And so his is he just launches this giant laser at the enemy, and that was probably my favorite. Another cool one that I enjoyed was he was all about using a giant sword, and so you could like turn invisible and dash through obstacles, and then your super ability in that loadout is you pull out your sword and just hack away, which is really fun as well. These two different types of gameplay were nice because they balance each other out. You never got sick of playing as the pilot or the Titan, and I felt like the campaign did a good job of mixing things up. Okay, now you're separated from BT, and so you need to go open the door so then BT can come through. And they have a lot of different reasons on like why you might need to separate from BT, like maybe some of the corridors are too small for BT to fit in. Other times, like maybe because Titans can't really jump aside from like a couple unique abilities from some loadouts. So most of the time when you're doing platforming, you're going to be outside of BT, running along the walls and that kind of thing. And aside from that, they also did a good job of variety in terms of like the level design. So like one, you're following along this assembly line as like they're making these fake houses, and then you kind of duke it out in this fake neighborhood, which was really cool. Another level, you have the ability to toggle between the past or the present, and the present is like this old rundown facility, and in the past it's all high grade militia kind of area. And so you're toggling through where maybe one of the doors you can't access because there's a bunch of lasers going across the doorway, so you have to toggle into the future where that's all broken down. Or other times you're in the future and your pathway will be blocked by a bunch of debris, and so you have to go back into the past. And in both the past and the present there are enemies, so you're toggling between both of these different timelines, and you're trying to keep track of like where the enemies are. That was a really fun level as well. And so the whole time I'm playing through this game, it's rather short, but I was invested and I was having fun, and they were always introducing new things like loadouts and different mechanics, and always something exciting was happening. I played on normal difficulty, and I like how powerful they make you feel in normal difficulty while still adding a challenge to it, because enemies die like real people would. Basically like one shot with a gun and they're dead, and it reminded me a lot of playing SWAT mode in Halo, where it's like high stakes. You don't get shields, the enemies aren't bullet spongy, you don't have to fire a ton of ammunition at them. They die pretty quickly, but you're pretty much the same. Now you're a little stronger than SWAT mode. You need to get hit by a good 4 or 5 bullets before you're down, and if you take cover, your health will regenerate quite quickly. And so it's not as hard as SWAT, but it reminded me a lot like playing SWAT. So it was just go, go, go. I'm not firing at a bunch of tanky enemies and they're not going down. It was quick and fun. Even when you're fighting the enemy robots, I like how when you knock them down or you'll like blast away their legs, they'll kind of crawl at you Terminator style, which is really creepy. And I do wish that you fought the animals that inhabited the planet more. Now there's a couple cases where you'll fight like these. They kind of remind me of the Avatar Jaguar things, but you'll fight a couple of those, but I wish that they added even more of these animals that you would have to be fighting as well, just to mix things up a little more than just most of the time you will be fighting humans or the robots, or I guess the enemy titans. As you play through each of the levels, there are hidden pilot helmets around. I'm not exactly sure what those unlock, but I do know when I'm in a level and I find one, they say you found 1 out of 9 pilot helmets. So I don't know if it's just something specifically for achievements or they unlock something more for the story, but that is something that you can look out for if you're interested in being a completionist and looking out for all the collectibles. The game did end up pretty abruptly for my taste. I wish that they fleshed out the ending a little more and gave us more of a rounded story. One of the bad guys at the end, he got away and he drops an Apex, a business card like on your screen. And so I believe that Apex Legends, I think the game is, it's also made by the same people who made Titanfall 2. So Apex Legends, I think, is a sequel to this game, although as far as I understand, that's a free-to-play multiplayer game, so I don't know if there's any type of single-player mode for that. And so this has me definitely wishing for a single-player Titanfall 3 experience, because it really, like, I don't know, it didn't feel as satisfying as I would have hoped. I wanted everything to be rounded off, and it felt like there was some stuff lingering for some future installment of the story. And I think that was kind of a theme going in with this game. I mentioned earlier that I wish that they kind of delved more into the narrative between Cooper, who's the pilot, and BT, who is the Titan, and I liked their bonding, and as you play through the game, they kind of learn to work with each other a lot more seamlessly, but I wish there was a little more dialogue and narrative between them, just kind of give us a little more breathing room from all the constant shooting and the yelling at each other. Now, I know I just complimented this game in that there was no boring filler, but I do know a couple other games that were able to pull off the whole dialogue between characters and make it not feel like it was just filler. That being said, though, having just played Final Fantasy 15 and Xenoblade Chronicles, it was a breath of fresh air to play a straight narrative single-player campaign that takes only several hours to beat. Overall, I will be giving this game a 4 out of 5, and I definitely think it is a really fun experience, especially if you're into those high-octane, fast-paced, single-player first-person shooters. And if you haven't already, you can get this game for fairly cheap, and I definitely encourage you to do so. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Titanfall 2, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!